Hi Twitch. Welcome back to True Crime Tuesday. Today we're going to be talking about the death of Princess Diana and all of the conspiracies surrounding that. I've been researching this for a while now. It took me longer than I expected. I felt so bad every time. I'm like, every day I thought I would be ready for it, but then I just ended up doing something else because I wanted to make sure that I was prepared and I did the stream justice and not just like jumped into it unknowingly. A lot of that has to do with Vanderpump Rules. I had to find out what Scandoval is about because there's no way like you can be online and avoid spoilers. I just had to know what Scandoval is. So we're past that. I am caught up on Vanderpump Rules and we can continue now. I love the background and spooky vibes. Oh, thank you so much. Yes, so it's October and I'm so excited. I've been waiting for like as soon as it hit October to be able to do all of this. All of this will change too. It's not going to stay like this, but it's a start. And especially today, since we're talking about Princess Diana, I didn't want it to be so like, oh, AB, thank you so much for the gifted right at the start of the stream. What a great way to start. Thanks, AB. So, have you had a pumpkin spice latte yet? I have. Actually, my favorite is the spice chai latte with pumpkin spice. That is so good, you guys. You have to try it. And I was telling you guys how I was so disappointed in myself the other day because I was spending so much at Starbucks and I didn't even realize. It didn't occur to me till I saw how many points I had accumulated. But today I used my points and I got these like cups. It comes in like a pack of like 4 or 5 and they're color changing cups. So this cup is not blue. It's completely clear, transparent. But when you have ice in it, it changes color. Isn't that cool? Anyways, let's get back on topic. So yeah, we're going to be talking about Princess Diana today. And I wanted to make this a VOD. I'm hoping to make this a VOD. We'll see how it goes. I've never done anything like this. Like usually we'll watch some true crime cases, but this time I did some research myself and I will be presenting the information to you guys instead of you guys filling me in on info because you guys know everything. So if I stumble on my words or if I mess up on anything, I'm just going to repeat it and we're all going to pretend like that's normal and just go with it. And also, I wanted to say this first because usually I respond to like most of the chat, but if I don't today, I'm going to leave some time at the end of this to answer some questions I missed earlier. Just for the sake of the VOD, I might not respond to everything right away. But Soulhaven, thank you so much for the Prime sub. And to everyone who's here today, thank you so much. So excited. You're a great presenter, Lena. Thank you, Green Beanie. We'll see. Also, I'm excited about today. Even though I'm nervous, I'm just excited because I've never done anything like this before. So it'll kind of be like a trial for how these things will go. And I'll get to see like what to do differently next time. So thank you guys for being here. Okay, so let's just record. As in record, I mean like through my Streamlabs, and this is where my VOD will start. But welcome everyone. Don't be nervous, you will do Diana justice. Thanks so much, Julia. That's what I was worried about. Like today I wanted to dress up in costume and stuff, but because it's about Diana, I wanted to just keep it respectful, not have any of those shenanigans, and just talk about the case because that's what this is all about. You're gonna kill it? Thanks, Glory. Why am I nervous? There's nothing to be nervous about. Okay, let's start. I'm gonna record. Puppies make my heart happy. Thanks so much. Pasca, thanks so much for the sub also. And thank you guys, because also I wanted to mention if I don't acknowledge all of the subs immediately, I'm so sorry. It's just for like the flow of things. But at the end, I hope to get to everyone. Okay, record. So today we're going to be talking about the unanswered questions behind Princess Diana's death. And I guess let's just start by saying, who is Princess Diana? We've all heard the name, but I don't think a lot of us know her story or why her death was such a tragedy. Myself, initially, I thought it was just an accident caused by her being chased down by the paparazzi. But after doing research, there is just so much more involved than that. And there's just so many layers to it. It goes so deep, you guys. It's really weird. Just the fact that she's the most famous person, arguably the most famous person of the 20th century, and the fact that she had voiced concerns previously, like prior to her death, that she might be killed by or I don't know, she didn't say like who or why it may have happened, but she did voice concerns before that she may be killed. And those facts alone, I feel like, is reason enough to just dig deeper into the cause of her death and what really happened. At first, the British state did not do this. They kind of just accepted this as an accident, but the public was just so outraged by this. They wanted an inquest. They wanted the state to dig deeper, and then they finally did. So, I guess let's just dive into this. Also, I do want to mention, I'm so glad I did, because before any of this research, I didn't know much. I just thought she got in an accident and it was caused by the paparazzi, but I'm so glad I learned all of this, like even like her backstory and just what she was all about and what she stood for. It taught me so much. She was like such a role model for women, and with everything I learned about her, I tried to put myself in her situation. I'm like, would I have been strong enough to do that? Like being part of the royal family, but choosing to like not go with their tradition and just paving your own path. I don't know if I would have been strong enough to do that, but she was, and she did it so gracefully, and she was so loved by people all over the world. And so I'm really glad that I chose this topic to research. She destigmatized AIDS too. Oh, we're gonna get into all of it, you guys. I feel like her backstory is so important to the discussion of what happened to her, because a lot of it may have contributed, just like she stirred things up just by doing things her own way. And that's just not okay with the royal family. They have like a strict set of traditions, and she chose not to abide by them. My grandma said she was sweet when she met her. That's sweet. And also, like, this woman was like a star among the stars. It was said that even like celebrities were starstruck to have seen her. Here are some photos of her with some celebrities that she had met. Okay, let's see. This is her with Elton John. This is at Gianni Versace's funeral. This is her with John Travolta. They were dancing at a state dinner hosted by the Reagan family. Her with Nelson Mandela. They worked together, or collabed, you can say, on a lot of like charity causes together. Tom Hanks, Rita Wilson, George Michael, Clint Eastwood, Paul McCartney, all of like the A-listers. She was like a star even among them. So anyways, just for some background info for anyone who's not aware, Princess Diana was a deeply loved member of the royal family from the very beginning. As soon as she got with Prince Charles, like the public adored her and the paparazzi started swarming her. I mean, from the very beginning. And I think why the public loved her so much, she had like such a great reputation, and she was just like the perfect fit to be their future queen. But this never happened. It's so sad, you guys. I got so sad of like just learning about all of this. There was even, oh my God, to show you how important she was, there was even a Princess Diana Beanie Baby. This is a big deal, you guys. What is the princess? Oh my God, I don't know why it's doing this. What is the Princess Diana Beanie Baby, and how much is it worth? Among those highly sought after pieces were blah blah blah, and the infamous limited edition Princess Diana Beanie Baby that went for as much as $500,000. Yep, you read that right, per the Chicago Sun-Times. The story behind the bear is simple. In 1997, the whole world went into mourning after Princess Diana died. This was a big deal. Like, it shook the world. And not just like in Britain, everywhere. So she died. People showed up at Buckingham Palace, leaving flowers, notes, and little gifts behind to show the love for the late princess. So the company that does the Beanie Babies, they followed suit and announced the toy to commemorate the princess's late death. Oh, I guess let's show it first, though. Do they show a photo of it? It's right here. Oh, I had the Beanie Baby. Oh my God, Samantha. That's worth a lot of money. And, oh, and Brave Wild Sarah. Everyone, you guys, I can't believe you have that. Based on this article, it makes it sound like it's kind of rare to have this. So, anyways, all of this is to say that there hasn't been anyone like her before. She did things very differently from other royals. One of those things is that she was deeply committed to humanitarian causes, even ones that were like considered politically sensitive and not previously supported by the royals, like landmine eradication, AIDS awareness, and these are like real issues that affected real people. And another important thing is that when she attended these events, like she showed genuine concern for the people, and just by hugging them, like shaking their hand, these are things the royals did not do. They would wear gloves, or there's no like physical touching of people. It's just not what they did, before Diana at least. So even though it's against royal protocol for her to do this, it made her a lot more relatable and endearing to the public. I put together some images of her, actually. Some examples of when she did do this. This is her when she visited a school. She's hugging children. Before, you would not see royals doing this. Also here and here. Okay, so her like actually like physically touching and hugging, shaking hands. This was especially important for the AIDS cause. Previously, it was thought that like people with AIDS, if you even touch them, you can get the disease. So she when she did visit like AIDS hospitals or AIDS patients, she made it a point to shake their hands or hug them, just to show people that it's not contagious like that. She also opened the UK's first HIV AIDS unit at a London hospital. Let's see this. And this is her talking about AIDS specifically, and how like she hugs and shakes hands with patients who have AIDS.
HIV does not make people dangerous to know, so you can shake their hands and give them a hug. Heaven knows they need it. Eating disorders, whether it be anorexia or bulimia, show how an individual can turn the nourishment of the body into a painful attack on themselves. When I started my public life,
we'll get into more of that later, but yeah, she did struggle with eating disorders because of all the pressures that were surrounding her. But yeah, just the fact that like she did this for people who have AIDS and people normally wouldn't touch them, like she fought against that stigma that you would catch the disease if you touch someone with AIDS. Another thing, another cause that she advocated for was the awareness of leprosy. I don't think leprosy is like a prevalent disease that people worry about today, but anyways, it's, for those of you who don't know, an infectious disease. The main symptom is disfiguring skin sores, lumps, or bumps that don't go away after several weeks or months. The skin sores are pale colored. Nerve damage can cause or can lead to loss of feeling in your arms or legs. So it's a debilitating disease, and obviously, like, people can tell you have it. Why is this? There we go. And this is her with patients of leprosy.
Diana had a connection with the ill and suffering. No other royal had this special gift. In touching leprosy patients, Diana lifted taboos, just as she had done earlier with AIDS sufferers. This was one of her greatest achievements.
He just keeps going. So that's the plan for 9 months. He's just had his hand as well. He's just
This hand's all right.
that hand's been operated on.
What she's doing now, this has never been seen before by a royal.
Yeah, so
I think Diana felt
Like, she actually cared. And this just
a sense of
wasn't like common behavior among the royals. So you can tell she's like already stirring up some stuff. So yes, AIDS, leprosy, she fought against stigma for both those diseases. Another cause that she advocated for was landmines. She fought against those, and this is another like issue that the British state didn't really like tackle. It wasn't in their interest to do so. Oh, this is not it. This is her at in Angola in 1997 wearing protective gear at a landmine site. Her with the landmine victim, she lost her leg, and with some other victims over here too. So these images like alone like helped the world just fall in love with her, because they're not used to this. It's not how royals usually behave. And so her compassion and empathy really showed in the way that she interacted with people. And with all of these causes that she fought for, it eventually won her the Humanitarian of the Year award, which is huge. And just for like the royal family, like her commitment to philanthropy really set her apart. Another thing that made her different from the royal family and how they usually do things, she was a lot more open and candid with the media than royals usually are, and her willingness to share her personal struggles and challenges with the public made her a sympathetic figure. KB Bradley, thank you so much for 5 gifted subs. So all of this, like, even more than what I've mentioned, she just fought for people who don't have voices themselves, and all of this earned her the title of the People's Princess. And with all of this going on, like her having to put on like a happy face and just be happy for the public, she was dealing with like her own struggles. One of those things, actually the biggest thing I could probably say, is like media intrusion. Look at this video. I mean, just like in the way that she died, being chased down by paparazzi. But this happened, like, it started like from the very beginning, as soon as she started like talking, or rumors got out about her and Prince Charles. But it's just so intrusive to this point.
as well.
This is a photographer chasing her down, and they have like whimsical music in the background. That's her car.
She knows that as long as she keeps...
I love how she did that too. Like, she knows that they're watching her, and she didn't give them any face.
She knows that as long as she keeps the back of her head to the camera, then you will not get a shot that anyone would be interested in seeing. But having said that, she is in an impossible position, because it's all very well when it's just me here with one camera, but when there's 10 cameras, all at different positions, different locations.
The gym is like one of the main places they stalked her at too. She's just going to the gym, and like she arrives and there's like just like 10 or 15 cameras just snapping photos of her.
You know, she can't win.
An hour later, there's another photographer on the scene. They prepare for Diana to leave the club.
I just can't with the whimsical music. Yeah, the fact that he said she can't win, that is just so insane to me. Like, people who just tear other people down and like in the pursuit of their own success, that is so wild to me. He's trying to get the best angle possible. Equipped with a stepladder? Yeah, no, like he came prepared. It's sad.
She did, and that to this day.
But also interesting. Also interesting is that the same photographer who's in this video, here's another video of him, and I feel like it just really highlights who Diana was and her character.
Photographer Mark Saunders followed her everywhere, even the gym.
She said, "Who do you sell your pictures to?" And I said, "I sell them to."
I'm gonna
anyone."
rewind it a little. I don't know
And
if
she
you guys
said,
heard
"Yeah,
that.
Lines the wallet well."
Saunders followed her everywhere, even the gym.
She said, "Who do you sell your pictures to?" And I said, "I sell them to anyone." And she said, "Yeah, lines the wallet well, though, don't they?" And I said, "Well, yes, but you know, it is still just a job." And I asked if I could take a picture of her, and she said, "A picture of me now? No, I don't think so." And I said, "Oh, well, make me a few bob." And she said, "Well, how would you like me then?" And I said, "Well, topless would be nice." And she laughed and said, "Yes, that would be nice."
That is so wild to me. Like, as intrusive as the media was to her, she still found it like in her to joke about it and just be like a normal person with them. She understood that they were just trying to make some money and this was their job, which I don't agree with them. Like, it was too much and it was to the point of harassment, but still she joked and she was just very down to earth, something you don't expect from like a royal family member. Yeah, so can you turn the video audio up a little? I think it was just for that video. It was super quiet. But the rest should be fine. So, another thing she had dealt with, because she did things her own way, she sort of had like a rocky relationship with the royal family. They definitely liked her at first, because if Queen Elizabeth did not like her or approve of her, the prince just would not have married her. And also, I mean, she had this great reputation and she was a great addition to the royal family. Her approachable and relatable personality made the monarchy seem more modern and in touch with the public. And in terms of the public, they really liked her and cared for her. But, for the royal family at least. The public loved this, but the royal family, this made them uncomfortable. I think that they expected someone to just kind of like fit the role of the princess or the wife of Prince Charles, and not even have to do anything or have any real change on the public. Just attend the events and smile for the cameras. But there's a strict set of rules and traditions for the royals, and there's no room for bending them. And that's what Diana did. So it kind of caused some tension. And instead, she had a real effect on the monarchy, and her accessibility and informality led to a slight relaxation of protocol and a more informal style. So she did have some change on like the royal family in that way. Also, her ability to like interact with the media and just her attention that she had of the media, it increased just like the overall media coverage of the family. And I don't think that they liked this. They didn't like people knowing too much about their lives. But also, I mean, like, this wasn't like the best thing for her either. It's not like she asked for it. It just kind of happened, and it had like a lot of like it caused a lot of negative things for her too. Like, she was just always hounded by paparazzi everywhere, all the time. And it just caused like a lot of pressure and stress for her. She was a strong lady. She was. I'm sorry, chat. Like, I'm just so caught up in all of this. I'm not really reading all of this, but I love her sense of fashion. We'll get into that too. All of these things you guys are saying, we're going to touch upon this. I feel like that was really important into discussing like what happened to her. Okay. Also, well, first, before I get into this next topic, I do want to mention that the fact that like the paparazzi were all over her all the time, it didn't just upset them that they were all over her. It's the fact that like she caught their attention everywhere, and more so than Prince Charles. So everywhere they went, they were more focused on her. They wanted to talk to her. They wanted to take photos of her. And I don't think the royal family was okay with that. Especially like when Queen Elizabeth was there or Prince Charles was there. Also, hope you touch on her with the Muslim man when they killed her, allegedly. Mojo, we're going to get to that too. Trust me, all of it. I did so much research on this. And anyways, so she was struggling with all of these things because like she was just being her own person, and it wasn't in line with what the royals are used to. And then eventually in 1995, she did an interview with BBC and Martin Bashir. And it was just like this explosive interview where she talked about everything. She talked about like her marriage troubles, her struggles with the royal family, her personal struggles with like bulimia, and just like the pressures of the media. And this was just like, this interview revealed so much. This is an interview where like Queen Elizabeth she already knew of the marital problems between her and Charles, but she was like, okay, I think it's time for them to separate, or we need to proceed with divorce. I don't think the Queen was expecting her to reveal like just that much. But also, it's important to mention that Diana was deceived into giving this interview. So Martin Bashir, who was in the interview with her, I guess let's see some of the interview first before we talk about him. This is him, Martin Bashir.
Think you'll ever be queen?
No, I don't. No.
Why do you think that?
I'd like to be a queen of people's hearts, in people's hearts. But I don't see myself being queen of this country.
Like,
I don't think many people would want me to be queen. Actually, when I say many people,
work.
I mean the establishment that I'm married into, because they've decided that I'm a non-starter.
Why do you think they've decided that?
Because I do things differently. Because I don't go by a rule book. Because I lead from the heart, not the head. And albeit that's got me into trouble in my work, I understand that. But someone's got to go out there and love people and show it.
And do you think that because of the way you behave, that's precluded you effectively from becoming queen?
Yes, well, not precluded me, I wouldn't say that. I just don't think I have as many supporters in that environment than I did. Yeah.
You mean within the royal household?
Mm-hmm. They see me as a threat of some kind. And I'm here to do good. I'm not a destructive person.
Why do they see you as a threat?
I think every strong woman in history has had to walk down a similar path, and I think it's the strength that causes the confusion and the fear. Why is she strong? Where does she get it from? Where is she taking it? Where is she going to use it? Why do the public still support her? When I say public, you go in and do an engagement and there's a great many people there.
Do you think Mrs. Parker Bowles was a factor in the breakdown of your marriage?
Well, there were 3 of us in this marriage, so it was a bit crowded.
I love how they cut from like that, the sad musical background, and then just there were 3 of us in this marriage and it was a bit crowded. So that's like the most like famously quoted part of this interview. She revealed that Prince Charles was having an affair with someone else and it caused like a lot of strain on their marriage. But also, I don't want it to take away from like other things that she had mentioned here. Like I think they didn't expect a bold woman, just someone, or just her talking about like every strong woman has to walk a similar path, and that just causes fear among people around her because they don't know what to expect. And I think that's sort of like the relationship she had with the royal family. They did love her, but they just kind of feared her too, because they haven't seen anything like this before. So yeah, she talked about the royal family, her struggles with the press, and her personal struggles with depression and eating disorders. But this was just like huge. This was like a shock to people all over the world. They thought that like Princess Diana was, you know, living this fairy tale. She was married to Prince Charles, and it was nothing like that. But also I do want to mention what a piece of shit Martin Bashir was, because she was deceived into getting this interview. How it happened is that he was in touch with her brother, Earl Spencer, and what he presented to Earl Spencer was these forged documents, these fake bank statements that implied that there were people employed by the royal family or people on the payroll of the royal family who were spying on Diana and selling her story to newspapers. So she felt inclined to do this interview because she felt like she needed to tell her story. And it's just so unfair. This is not the first time he did this with like such a huge public figure. It's disgusting, really. But this interview, her interview with BBC Panorama, it changed everything for her. And all of this is to say, before we get into like the background of all of this, her meeting Prince Charles and all of that, she was only 36 when she passed away, and her death shocked the world, and suspicions began to circulate about what really happened to her and if there were other circumstances that caused her death. At the surface, it just seems so simple, like she got in a car accident because she was being chased down by paparazzi, but there's just so much more to it. So let's talk about the background of all of this. Before I get into that, I'm just going to go pee really fast and I will be right back. Don't go anywhere, guys. You too, TikTok. I'm still here. Thanks, guys. I'm back. I don't know why I'm so nervous talking about this. I was just telling AB why I went to use the bathroom, and after I was asking him about it. He's like, "Why are you nervous? You got this." And I'm like, "Okay, I got this." So let's just get back into this. Let's talk about Princess Diana. Right now, we're getting into her background and how all of this came to be. For those of you who don't know, she was born into an aristocratic family. Her parents' titles were Viscount and Viscountess. When I first heard this, I'm like, what? Like, what is that? I didn't know there was like a hierarchy of British royal titles. But anyways, her dad moved up in ranking to an earl, and that's when she became Lady Diana. I'm sure a lot of you guys heard her by that title as well. And so because I didn't know what this was, I Googled how do British royal titles work. And one of the suggestions I came up for like the Google was how do British royals live so long? I wish I clicked that though, actually. Like, how do they? Do they just get like the best medical care possible? Is that why? But for those of you who care to know, oh, this doesn't show everything. So this is like the hierarchy of British royals. And this is where her parents, or you can't see my cursor, but her parents were Viscount and Viscountess. But then her dad moved up to Earl, and that's what made her like her title Lady. I don't know. I just thought that was interesting. So anyways, because she was born into like a noble family, she did grow up close with the royals, but she didn't know like Prince Charles personally until they were older. He actually dated her sister first, Lady Sarah, and actually here's some photos of them. I didn't notice that I included that. Her sister looks so much like her. This is her sister with the Prince Charles. This is when they were dating. And anyways, so they were together. It didn't work out between them, but they remained close. And her sister had invited him actually to a weekend with their family. And then that's when Charles and Diana had actually met. She was 16 and he was 29. So let's talk about like just dating this sibling of someone that you were previously with. This one I don't think is so weird because like it's normal for like the noble families, from what I've learned, from what I've researched, for them to just like socialize amongst each other. So there's not that many people like for them to be with, and even if it's just a sibling, like that's fine. And even for Lady Sarah, she said that was normal. She felt like Cupid for having introduced them, but I guess this was just normal for them. For me personally, I could not have done it. But as far as the age difference, I don't know if I could have. The 16 and she was 16 and he was 29. This made it even weirder because the fact that like she didn't have a boyfriend before this. Before meeting Prince Charles, like she hadn't been in with anyone, but him on the other hand, like he kind of had like a playboy reputation. There's this article here. I know my internet is going so slow all of a sudden. But it is called Prince Charles's Playboy Past Revealed. These are some of his girlfriends that he's had before Diana. I don't know why they showed this image of him shirtless. Oh my god, this one, oh, this is Lady Sarah. This is Diana's sister. don't know who this is. Amanda. But yeah, he just had like a playboy sort of reputation. This is Camilla. We'll get into her. We'll talk about her, guys. There's a lot involved with Camilla. But anyways, all of this to say, Diana's sister introduced the both of them, and then they became friends. And then Lady Sarah, Diana's sister, I'm sorry. Charles had his 30th birthday, and he invited the both of them. And this is when they had actually started dating. At the time, she was living in an apartment in London with her friends and worked as a kindergarten teacher. I think this says so much about her too, and her character, the fact that her family had money and she chose to do this as her profession, working with kids. I substituted for, I think it was first grade or like kindergarten. I think I did both. And I'm like, never again. I love kids personally, but when you're dealing like with a classroom full of them, it's so much different. You guys here are just so hard to work with. And since then, I'm like, I'm never working with like little kids again. So the fact that like she took on this profession with her background, I thought was just really amazing. Also, there's the fact that she was like the first royal bride to have had a paying job before she became royal. That's just amazing to me. So anyways, they had gotten engaged. We're at the year of 1981. This is an article that was written about them when they did get engaged. It's called Prince Charles to Wed 19-year-old Family Friend. And there's just like a lot. This article itself is just very telling. So Lady Diana, daughter of 8th Earl Spencer, has an impeccable social background suitable for someone who may one day be queen. So she just had like this sparkling reputation and just such high hopes for her to do great things. And I think that's why when people found out there's like scandal behind their marriage, why it was just such a big deal. Also here, but rather a hard-working London kindergarten teacher who loves children, avoids nightclubs and stylish parties. This is different from Camilla. We'll get to her, Camilla. But, and blushes engagingly whenever she's cited by the posse of press photographers who have been pursuing her for months. Not to mention she's 19 years old when this article is written. Chat's relentless today. Oh my god, I haven't even been looking in chat. How are we feeling about this? I see Camilla barf. Yeah, you guys, I do not like Camilla. I'm sorry, I don't know if that's okay to say, but I do not like her. Also in the article, the prince, who has been regarded as one of the world's most eligible bachelors, disclosed today that he proposed to Lady Diana over a private dinner in Buckingham Palace earlier this month as she was leaving for vacation. I wanted to give her a chance to think about it, to think if it was all going to be too awful. Lady Diana interjected, "Oh, I never had any doubts about it." Why would he say that about a marriage and his prospective wife? If it was going to be too awful, he wanted to give her time to think about it. Like, I feel like there are so many like red flags in the beginning. Here it says Lord Spencer and Lady Diana's mother are divorced, a fact that might have once been an obstacle for the royal marriage. Like, that just goes to show like how tough the rules are for the royal family and who they marry into. Your parents can't even be divorced. Like, that is like a factor that will intervene and just they won't support you for that reason. There is more in this article. I thought that was so interesting. Okay, she's described by her friends as gentle and shy. All of this is so important in terms of like what's to come. During the ordeal of pursuit to which Fleet Street reporters have subjected her in recent months, she has shown good humor and patience, although once, surprised by photographers at the wheel of her red mini metro, she burst into tears. It's like the pressure of the paparazzi, it was just prevalent, so prevalent from so early on. And I think that's so sad. She's only 19 at this point. I try to put myself in her shoes and I'm like, I don't know how I would have reacted to all of this. I don't know. So anyways, they end up getting engaged. They get to know each other better. She actually only seen him like 13 times prior to their actual engagement, but he ends up proposing. They're engaged. And here is a very famous interview between the two of them after their engagement. It's very awkward, and I can say that. It's even titled, this video is titled, On This Day, Charles and Diana's Awkward Engagement Interview.
Slightly previous to that, but I know.
And what did you think then? What was your instant impression, both of you?
You can put on subtitles. Oh, not available.
What do you think about Lady Diana then?
Well, I remember thinking what a very jolly
The interviewer asked him, what was your initial impression of Diana?
and amusing and attractive 16-year-old she was. And, I mean, great fun. And bouncy and full of life and everything. And I don't know what you thought of me. But
Pretty amazing.
An attractive 16-year-old. I don't know, it's just like, I feel like there were so many flags at first. And she was just like young and naive and in love. He was in a different situation and it's just like, it's tough. Oh, and then also when the interviewer asks him, and I suppose you guys are in love, this is his answer, which Diana later said that traumatized her actually.
I'm amazed that she's been brave enough to take me on.
And I suppose in love.
Of course.
Whatever in love means.
He said, and I suppose in love. And she's like, of course. You can tell she just looks so shy through this whole interview. And she's like, of course. What do you mean? Like, of course we're in love.
Well, it
Put your own interpretation.
obviously means two very happy people.
Yes.
As you can see.
Congratulations.
Well, from us, congratulations.
Thank you
Thank
very
you very
much.
much. Very kind.
It's so weird and it's so sad. It just shows like they both had different feelings for each other at the time. So anyways, immediately after they got engaged, she moved into Buckingham Palace. So think of it this way, like she went from living in an apartment with friends, she didn't live alone, to living in like this huge palace and she's all alone. People thought that this was a fairy tale and that she was like living the dream, but it was nothing like that. She described this time in Buckingham Palace as being very lonely and bored. There was things to do and like activities. She would do like horseback riding, swimming, whatever. There was like whatever you wanted to do, it would be available to her, but there was just no one to do it with, and that's not what she was going for. And she said that most of the time, she spent most of her time just planning for the wedding, but he wasn't present for her. And so this is when her mental health began to decline. Queen Elizabeth tried to be there for her, like in terms of having someone to talk to, and she did. She did talk to Diana, and tried to help her, but I don't think that the Queen understood or could even understand like what she was really going through. The Queen reportedly thought that she'd have an easy transition into royal life because she grew up in privilege herself, but that just wasn't the case. For Diana, it was very different. She just like catapulted into fame. Like I said, immediately as rumors got out that she was with Prince Charles, like the paparazzi was all over her. And the pressure from the media was just super tough. And I don't think that this is something that they expected or could relate to her with. in this interview here, actually, they asked Diana if she had expected the media pressure to be like that.
Else, because there's far too much about me in the newspapers, far too much. Horrifies me when there's something more important, like what goes on in a hospice, or there's been a bomb or something. They'll put me on the front page.
But it's a penalty of the job that
Yes.
you can't behave as you used to.
Well, I guess probably just as well, if you knew how I used to behave.
But did you know what you were taking on in that kind of sense? Not being able to just walk down the street?
No, I didn't.
Did you find it difficult to adapt?
I did, yes. Purely because there was so much attention on me when I first arrived on the scene, and I wanted to get my act together, so to speak. And I had so many people watching me, and the pressure was enormous. But as years go on, it gets better. But you're still learning all the time.
But there is a natural and continuing interest in you. For example, have you actually tried to change Prince Charles in any way?
She just says that, like, yeah, she didn't try to change him in anything drastic. She just, like, maybe with what he was wearing, blah, blah, blah. It was cute. It was funny. They were asking her questions, and I don't think they were really listening to the answers. She's saying that it was difficult for her to transition into royal life because the media was just such a heavy burden on her. And I don't think anyone actually, like, considered this or just listened to her. And I think that is so sad. So anyways, with all of this going on and the pressures from the media, the pressures from the royal family, the one person she expected that she could talk to, Prince Charles, he wasn't there for her. He wasn't around, and that's not what she expected. So she struggled with bulimia, and actually she said that her eating disorder began when he put his arms around her, and he's like, a bit chubby, aren't we? She said this herself. I'm not saying this on my own. She said this herself. There was like privately recorded tapes that she wanted to share her story with the world, and that's what she said. I think that is so awful because she's just so beautiful. She's just such an astounding woman in her own right, and the fact that someone can criticize her for that is just so awful, and not appreciate her for what she is. So all of this is just to say that she was so unhappy during this time, and she actually left the palace. We're talking right now, like she's still just engaged to him, newly engaged. She left the palace. She ran back home, but it was her dad. She wanted to cancel the wedding, but it was her dad that convinced her to go back. And the rest is history. So the wedding continues, and they get married. She's 20 years old at this time. This is known as the wedding of the century. Let's pull up some photos from there. What? I don't know why Imjur is telling me to confirm that I'm over 18. I don't think there's anything bad in these photos, but yeah, she gets married to him. She's only 20 years old. It's like this big, huge fairy tale wedding. 750 million people in the world are watching this on TV. Here's some images from it. From the balcony, and over here too. So it was just like such a big deal, and the country was so overwhelmed by this. They were so happy. They're like, this is like the perfect future queen. Here is a video of her getting out of the carriage to get to her wedding. No, why is this? That was her entering the church. I think this video is so amazing because leading up to this, she was just in like the carriage with her dad. They're waving to everyone, everyone's chanting. But then when the carriage stops, before she gets out, like everyone just falls silent. It's like everyone's holding their breath. And then the moment she steps out, it's all applause again and cheering. I thought that was so beautiful. So yeah, all of this to say, it was just like such a huge deal. Another thing that she had done differently is that she changed the wedding vows. So for the royal family, this is just such a big deal. You don't go and do these things, but she did. They accepted it and life went on. But here is a video of their vows. And what she changed specifically, she said that she would not, like, not that she said, she took this part out, that she would obey. And that, I feel like it's just so crazy.
I give thee my truth.
I, Diana Francis.
I, Diana Francis.
Take thee, Charles Philip Arthur George.
Take thee, Philip Charles Arthur George.
To my wedded husband.
To my wedded husband.
To have and to hold.
To have and to hold.
From this day forward.
From this day forward.
For better, for worse.
For better, for worse.
For richer, for poorer.
For richer, for poorer.
In sickness and in health.
In sickness and in health.
To love and to cherish.
To love and to cherish.
Till death us do part.
Till death us do part.
According to God's holy law.
According to God's holy law.
And thereto I give thee.
So yeah, she did not say to obey. Someone said she sounds scared. She feels like she's doing the right thing. She's only 20 years old at this time, so she's really young. And yeah, she's in love and she feels like she's doing the right thing. But anyways, the fact that she kept obey out of her wedding vows, this is actually something that Kate Middleton and Meghan Markle both followed by too. They both kept that out of their wedding vows too. Also, by the way, I found this so interesting. Princess Diana's wedding ring, which is like the most recognizable piece of jewelry in history, it was actually inherited by Prince Harry when she passed away. But it's Kate Middleton who wears it now. Let me show you some photos. So this is the engagement ring that's so famous. She's wearing it in these photos. Oh my god, she looks so young and so happy. Here's another photo. Even after they got divorced, actually, she was still seen wearing it a few times. And this is Kate Middleton with the ring. But I would be so pissed if I was Meghan Markle. Imagine being so close to getting that ring and it goes to her instead. Yeah, it was just and not just the fact that it was Princess Diana's ring. There was like so much drama behind this ring too. The fact that royals usually get like custom rings, so that no one else in the country can have the same ring as them. Because what? Like, no, they don't work that way. But Diana actually picked this ring out of a catalog, which is very different from royals before her. So there's like a lot of like just drama that was stirred up from this, and anyone in the country who, well, I mean, the ring was like $60,000. So if you have $60,000, you can have the same ring as Princess Diana, and they were not okay with this. But yeah, the wedding was just such a huge deal. A year later, she gave birth to Prince William. This is a photo of them here. This is another way she did things differently. This is them outside the hospital. So it's customary for royals to have give birth inside the royal palace, but she instead gave birth inside a hospital. And then when they walked out, this was like the first time the world was introduced to Prince William. And so she kind of paved her own path in that way. And 2 years later, same thing. She gave birth to Prince Harry in the hospital as well. And then both Kate and Meghan followed in this tradition as well. And they both gave birth to all of their kids inside hospitals. And just so much of her life, like she did things differently. I wanted to include these images too. This is her kids going to school. They went to public school. Before this, like royals were usually schooled at home. And so I just thought it was just so fascinating. And she wanted to give her kids like a sense of what it's like to be normal and familiarize themselves with the world outside of royal privilege. So she would take them to like fast food restaurants, movie theaters, just public places that you wouldn't expect to see royals before. This is them at Thorpe Park, Disney. She took them to Disney. This is at Niagara Falls. And these are just some like such sweet family photos. When I came across these, I was just so sad. It's like, I feel like she thought everything was perfect and that just was not the case. They look like a happy family, but that wasn't the case. I'm just going to take a quick bathroom break before we come right back. Thanks, guys. Okay. We we went over the background and stuff of Princess Diana, how she came to meet Prince Charles. Now we're getting into the real stuff, you guys. The real drama. Because there's a lot of it. Okay. So, we talked a lot about Princess Diana and Prince Charles' relationship at first. Well, when they first met. I think the issue after looking into all of this, I feel like the issue was that Diana really loved Prince Charles, and that feeling just wasn't reciprocated. She thought that he would love her back, they would have this happy marriage, and this just wasn't the case. And even the country, they thought of them as like this picture perfect family, but it's such a sad story. It's so sad. But I do just want to say that she did love him at first. And it's so sad. So earlier we talked about the BBC Panorama interview and how it shocked the world. She mentioned that there was a third woman and there were 3 people in the relationship. That was like the most revealing thing of the interview. That third woman was Camilla Parker Bowles. This is them here. This is Camilla, for those of you who don't know. That's how I meant to show this one. This is Camilla. And this is a young Camilla with a young Charles. They were friends at first. They started dating when they were younger. They were together in the 70s, actually. It was more of a fling because she wasn't like, she wasn't noble enough for him to marry. So the queen didn't approve of her. And that's why I think that, like, if the queen didn't approve of Diana, it wouldn't have happened. Because Charles really loved Camilla. I think he loved her all his life. But she just wasn't, like, the proper wife for him. And his family didn't approve. So that's why it could not have worked. But Camilla was, like, in the similar to Diana, she was, like, in the royal circle. Her family wasn't as noble as Diana's family. Let's pull up the British nobility ranking chart again. But yeah, she just wasn't as noble as Diana was. This is where, oh, you guys can't see my, no, why is it showing this? We're learning. I'm trying to scroll down to where Camilla's family falls, but it's too low. Okay, below this knight standing it says Lord over here and Lady. That's where Camilla's family falls. So it wasn't quite noble enough for him to marry, but it's still in the noble ranking. So she was familiarized with them. She grew up around them the same way that Diana did. Her dad was actually a vice lord. So actually, no, not even lord. I need to show you guys this. So not even a lord. This is lord. Her dad was not a lord. He was below this. He was a vice lord. And nothing wrong with this. I'm not saying anything's wrong, but just I'm trying to point out the differences between her and Diana and why the family approved of Diana and not Camilla at first. Because Camilla was initially with the one who was with Richard. I mean, Charles. I don't know where I got freaking Richard from. But anyways, I can't stand them both, you guys. You'll see why. Anyway, so yeah, so the ranking was at least enough to get her an in with the British noble society. And another reason why the queen didn't really approve of Camilla, she had like this party girl reputation, same way that Charles had like this playboy reputation, but this is not acceptable for the future queen of the throne. So they didn't approve of her, and I think Camilla knew this. So she was okay also too. She was like okay with just being maybe a mistress to Charles and not ever really being his wife. So anyways, they were together, but then Charles went away with war, and that's when Camilla had remarried. So Charles ended up moving on to, he meets Diana, they fall in love, and Camilla, though, she's still part of like their social circle, I guess you can say. Here it is too. This is Diana and Camilla together. They were watching like a race course that Charles was involved with, and they were watching him compete. This is before Diana got married, but like she was in their social circle. She was involved, and Diana had to like deal with this. And in terms of Camilla, like knowing that she would never be like accepted as his wife, she just kind of accepted being his mistress. Here are some words I thought were interesting on why Charles took on Camilla.
Diana and Charles were already finding it difficult to relate to each other. Most of all, she could not compete.
This is right when they got engaged. They were on like the royal estate, and there were photographers there. But yeah, it was just like this whole like media kind of thing.
With the older and more experienced Camilla.
Older and more experienced Camilla.
It was very hard for her. I don't think that sexual things were her main attraction. I'm not sure that she was very, very sexy, really. As often very beautiful women are, they're not terrific on the sexual front.
What does this mean? Someone as beautiful as Diana and this lady who is in with the royal family, she's explaining that someone said she was kinky. I can't talk bad, you guys. I'm trying to be so careful to not like talk bad about the royal family. But I'm just speaking facts here. I'm not giving so much of my opinions on the royal family, but this lady who is close with the family, she says that Camilla was sexy. And this is something that Diana couldn't get behind. And what she lacked, and this is why Diana was insecure when it came to Camilla. And I think that's so sad because, like, I don't know them personally, but from what I've seen, what I've read, like, Diana was like 10 times the woman Camilla was. And it's so sad for her to feel like insecure when it comes to someone like Camilla. But anyways, Diana knew about the relationship before they got together. She thought it was over, but it wasn't. Their relationship secretly continued. During their engagement, Diana found a bracelet that he had purchased for Camilla, so that's how she knew. And in another instance, during their honeymoon, he wore cufflinks from Camilla. It had like 2 C's intertwined. Like, how awful is that? You're on your honeymoon. It's supposed to be, you know, the most romantic, best time ever. And she has to deal with that. Lena, you do not have to be loyal to the crown. You are American to us. I just don't want to disrespect anyone. With all of this research, I know how much the crown matters to people, and I don't want to disrespect that. I know it's just like some people kind of tarnish the reputation, but it doesn't speak on like the crown as a whole. So I'm gonna avoid that. But anyways, so yeah, Diana thought it would be over, and that was not the case. So she actually confronted Camilla once. It was at, I think it was Camilla's sister's birthday party that Diana and Charles had attended. And she said to Camilla, she's like, I know that something's going on. I'm not stupid. I'm not an idiot. Don't make me out to be that way. And I thought that was just so crazy to confront someone in that way. Could I have done it? I don't know. I always put myself in these situations and I'm like, I don't know if I could have done it. And then also, Diana confronted Charles about this, about him being with someone. And what he said was, and this is in like the tapes that I mentioned earlier that Diana recorded, the secret tapes, but she said that he told her, I refuse to be the only Prince of Wales who's never had a mistress. This just makes me think like He really thought he was entitled to this, and maybe he didn't mean to hurt her. He just thought that this was okay. This is how things are done. But all of this to say, it's just such a sad story. Anyways, the phone call between Charles and Camilla leaked. This was huge, and I'm sure Diana had like a field day with this. But finally the public saw, not like publicly, not like officially, but they knew that something was going on. This is what's called Camilla Gate. It's really weird.
Intimacy.
Not just weird, like for the royal family, this is insane. This has never been seen or done before.
Yeah, I think you're feeling away now. I can't bear a Sunday night without you. It's like that program Start the Week. I can't start the week without you. I fill up your tank.
I fill up your tank. Who says that? I'm so grossed out.
You do. Yeah. And then I'm all right.
I think Diana loved it. She had
I think so too. Let's see what else this guy has to say.
Wonderful time roaring, reading out sections of the Camilla Gate tapes over the breakfast table at Kensington Palace. She had a field day because her husband had been so pompous, so determined that she was in the wrong and that he was in the right. And
yeah, okay, I'm glad I waited a while for this guy to say that. At this time, like, the royal family is trying to paint Diana, we'll get more into this, but as like mentally she's unstable, she's not all there, and trying to kind of paint her as like she's unfit for the throne, which is so unfair because it's totally not the case at all. She cared more for the people, like more than any royal had before. Also, not to mention why this was such a scandal, Camilla was also married at this time. Like I mentioned earlier, when Charles went away to war, that's when she had gotten married. So they're both married at this point and they're both having an affair. So despite all of this, and her husband having an affair, like Diana had to maintain like a positive, happy image, just keep smiling for the people. But this bubble finally burst in 1992 when she published, not her herself, but she confided in a friend of hers who published a book called Diana, Her True Story. She felt the need to get her story out there. And before this, she had just been quiet. So this was important for her to kind of tell her side of things. And although the Queen was aware of the strain in their marriage, she was shocked at just how much the book revealed. This is an article. This one's actually kind of recent, but it's titled, Diana's popularity with young people means Camilla will not be forgiven. Spoiler alert, Charles ends up marrying Camilla. This is like, I think like 2005, 2006, whatever. After Diana died at some point, he marries Camilla. And I just think it's kind of interesting that the country does not accept her. They did not forget. This is them together. There's just so many photographs of them together, and I feel like it's so unfair that Diana had to deal with all of that. So by the late 80s, the public was aware of their marital problems, and then Charles did a tell-all in 1994 where he finally admitted publicly to his adultery. Before this, it was just never confirmed. There was a Camilla Gate, of course, the phone call, but it was never like publicly confirmed until this interview specifically.
Did you try to be faithful and honourable to your wife when you took on the vow of marriage?
Yes, absolutely.
And you were?
Yes. Until it became irretrievably broken down. Us both having tried.
You've been very open about all of this and what you've said. Do you now hope that this issue and expect this issue to go away? Is that what you hope?
Did you guys hear that? He was asked if he's faithful to Diana, and he said yes, until it was to the point of where the marriage could not be reconciled. He just admitted to cheating on her. I mean, and he put it in the best way possible, but come on, this is still like a royal we're talking about. You don't do this. You don't cheat on your spouse. So this was just so wild. Like, their whole marriage was marked by scandal, and it caused tension in the royal family. It caused tension between the royals and the public, and it's just like already so many problems between them. Also, what I thought was interesting, on the night that this program was shown, where Prince Charles admitted to cheating on Diana, this is what she wore that day. She was attending an event, and she looked so stunning. You can't see all of it. It's okay, here it is. I know I'm zooming in. Look at her. You can't see her. Look at her. Why? Okay, anyways, this is her. And this is just like such an iconic look of hers, because this is what became known as the revenge dress. She wore this the day that the interview was televised, and it also, the reason why it was such a big deal, the royals do not wear black. They only wear black on like sad or like sad occasions or funerals. And it's also worth mentioning, she is aware of this rule. It's not like she's new to this. She knew of this and she decided to wear it anyways. I feel like she was just like making like a public statement with all of this. This is how you knew that she was aware of the rule that you don't wear black as a royal. She actually made this mistake before. This was like very early on in their relationship when she first became princess.
First mistake was a choice of dress. She wore a strapless, low-cut gown to accompany Charles to a music recital at the Goldsmiths Hall, London. The dress was considered too daring and the wrong colour. She said later, "I hadn't appreciated that I was now seen as royalty. Black, to me, was the smartest colour you could possibly have at the age of 19. It was a real grown-up dress." Camera angles made the dress too revealing. It was fit for a film star, but not a future queen.
She should have been given advice beforehand, because actually it's a well-known royal principle.
Did he just say mistake? Yes, mistake. Because the royals did not do this. And despite all of that, Diana still said she thought that black was a very smart color to wear. I just think she was so bold and brave and confident. And these are the traits, like, I don't know. If I was in that position, would I have done the same thing? Would I have been like bold enough? I don't know.
That you do not wear black except in mourning. So that's one she shouldn't have done. And number two, of course, the frock was a disaster when you think that the photographers are all going.
Just imagine, like, you step into this position and just the entire world's eyes are all on you. The frock. She said the frock, I think. I think she's like referring to the frock of this dress. It just like called attention to this area of her body. It was kind of showing her cleavage. I just wonder, with all of this, was Diana uncomfortable? I don't know. She was so young at this time.
And that was something that was picked at the last moment, I think.
Like, they just had to find something to like pick on her for. From the very beginning, like when she walked into the room, all eyes were on her, all the cameras were on her, and I think the royal family
Princess Grace of
wasn't happy
Monaco
about
was a
this.
guest of honour. She jokingly warned the nervous Diana, "Don't worry, dear, it'll get a lot worse." Diana would receive little help from her husband's family.
Princess Margaret liked her very much.
That was sweet. I thought how Grace Kelly kind of joked with her, saying that it'll get a lot worse. And I mean, I don't think that was rude, because I think that Diana was kind of like aware of that. So anyways, this, oh, that's why. This statement piece of Diana's, this dress, she ended up auctioning it, and it sold for $65,000. The money benefited cancer and AIDS related charities. Just another reason why she's like the most amazing woman ever. And another famous image of Diana is over here, amongst many. But this is one of them that I wanted to share. The famous Taj Mahal pose. So it's another iconic look of hers. It was used as like a symbol to show her solitude from Prince Charles. The photo was taken during their visit to India in 1992. This is the year that they would later separate. And during her visit, when she actually visited like the Taj Mahal, Prince Charles was at another meeting and she appeared for the visit alone. The photographer who took this image, his name is Anwar Hussain, he said, the Taj Mahal exists as an internal monument of a husband's love. And on that day, they didn't know if she would come. She kept them waiting for a long time. He said it was really, really hot there. She looked sad and she knew which way the story would go. She was very clever. There were other pictures taken that day on another bench when she seemed to be contemplating things. So Diana's kind of trying to paint like a public image over here and trying to show like the public what's really going on. So this is the part that kind of tripped me up and what surprised me. I didn't know about this. I kind of knew about Camilla because I've heard of Camilla Gay before, but I didn't know that Diana also had boyfriends. But I guess it's fair to mention that this was after like all of Camilla and stuff, because she tried to make the marriage work, and then she saw that just it wasn't going to happen. They could never be happy together and it was never going to work. She thought that like giving him children would change things. They would be happy. That still wasn't the case. So she was unhappy. She's searching for something that would make her feel good, searching for someone to love her. And also I think she wanted to like piss off Charles in a way. But this article shows all the men Princess Diana was ever romantically linked to. There's a few of them. Okay, so yeah, Prince Charles, hello, this is her first boyfriend ever. Look how young she is. She's so sweet, innocent, and naive. And this is her first boyfriend, the freaking king of the or future king of the country. Over here, this is Barry Manicky. This was her bodyguard. They became romantically linked, and it's important to note that he ended up dying in like a motorcycle accident, but rumors circulated. Actually, I think it describes it here. Palace rumors circulated of an affair between the two of them that ultimately led to his dismissal from the role a year later. He was killed in a motorcycle accident that led to conspiracy theories that his death had been planned. And Diana had described in those tapes that she recorded with a friend of hers, Andrew Morton, she described this death as like being planned. She kind of implied that it was planned. And she said specifically, I think he was bumped off. So I think we all know what that means. This is James Hewitt. They broke up, kind of similar to like Charles and Camilla. He ended up going to the army. She said she really loved him, but yeah, he ended up going away for war, and then that's when they split up, and she said that she was really disappointed. This is James Gilby. He is an heir to a gin fortune. He had been a friend of Diana since their childhood, and like Camilla Gate, there is a leaked phone scandal between the two of them too. It's called Squidgy Gate, because of the amount of times, I think it was like 53 times that he called her Squidge or Squidgy in the phone call. Here it is. So you can hear for yourselves.
Tape recording of a highly personal telephone call, purporting to be between the Princess of Wales and a friend, James Gilby, was given to the Sun newspaper by a retired bank manager.
He makes my life real torture, I've decided.
She just said the prince, the beloved prince of the royal throne makes her life a real torture. You guys, this is like a huge deal. Squidgy. What kind of name is that, Squidgy?
It's so wonderful, isn't it? The feeling. Do you like it? I love it. I love it. It is absolutely wonderful. Years. I feel about 21 again. Well, you're not at 33. I know. You don't mind dying when I want to talk to you so much. No, I love it. Never had it before. I've never had it before. So nice being able to help you. You do. You'll never know how much. You'll never know how much. Oh, I will, darling.
This made... Oh my god, wait, you couldn't even see it. But you heard it. You couldn't see it. It was just like... It showed like the subtitles of what they were saying. Did you guys hear it? We heard it. Okay, good. So upsetting. I was so into it. I'm sorry. It's so sad how he said, I hope you don't mind me talking so much. And she said, no, I've never had that before. How heartbreaking is that? I think that just shows like really how lonely she was. And it's not fair. So I don't think anyone should judge her for having affairs the same way that Charles did. Also, we have Oliver Hoare. This guy was an art dealer. He was also part of their circle of friends. Let me show you guys some images from very early on. Like he was part of their circle of friends. This is all of them together too. This is Oliver Hoare here. And here he is here too. But yeah, this is him. He was an art dealer. And this is really interesting. But he was married with children. And their relationship ended when he decided to stay with his wife. And Diana is said to have made many silent phone calls to their home. I thought this was so strange because... with everything that she was going through, why would she want to do that to somebody else? I don't know. I can't come to terms with this. I can't understand this part. And I looked into it more, but like several different sources said the same thing. Where I think like this one, and this one is... A few different sources said the same thing, but the affair came to an end owing to Hoare's refusal to leave his wife, and Diana is thought to have become a little over infatuated when she rang his Chelsea home 300 times in one night. So like I think this means, I was wondering what that meant, like silent calls. I think that means like she would call his house if either him or his wife would answer, and then she would hang up. But I don't know. This is, I can't come to understand this one. Just based on like what she went through, why would she want someone else, like another woman, to go through the same thing? Maybe there's more to this story. I just don't understand. Also, what's interesting about this, I came across this image. You guys, this literally looks like this photo was, this photo is edited. Look at this photo of them. Wait, let me find a bigger one. Oh. This one right here. Doesn't it kind of look edited? Can I zoom in? This is like a very popular photo of them. It was kind of used to show like, oh, she's having an affair with him. And I'm like, what? Is this like a fan edit? So I looked into it more, but I don't know. I found the same image on like these sites too. So I'm like, maybe it's not. Where are they? Oh, here. No, it's the same thing. Or here too. This is another website. It's like a royal website. Princess Diana's lover, Oliver Hoare, dies. Oh, this is kind of like in recent years. But it was also shown here too. So I don't know. It was just so weird. I thought that looked kind of like a fan edit. Anyways, it was not. Let's get back to the list of boyfriends. So this is Will Carling. He was a rugby player, the captain of the rugby team actually for England. They were romantically linked. And this is another important one. This is Hasnat Khan. He was a Pakistani heart surgeon. It was said that Diana just had a thing for like clever people. In this article, they say that, where is it? He was thought by friends to have been the love of Diana's life. Their 2-year-long relationship ended just months before Diana's death in 1997, owing to the fact that Khan feared he could never have a normal life if they married. That was another thing that attracted Diana to these men. Like, she could kind of pretend, at least for a little bit, to have a normal life, like when she would hang out with them or go to their homes. It's so sad. But yeah, she just kind of wanted to escape reality for a minute, escape the press, and being in these relationships kind of helped her to do that. So it was said that he was the love of her life, but it just couldn't work because he was not comfortable with like all of the press that was constantly surrounding her. And I guess all of this to say, she needed someone who could handle it. And who better? Oh my God, now we're getting closer to like the crash stuff, but this is the last boyfriend she had before everything crumbled down.
Any man who gets involved with the Princess of Wales has got to be prepared for the most astonishing intrusions in his life.
Dodi Fayed was. He was Hollywood, a movie producer. He was also a man with a reputation for loving and leaving beautiful, high-profile women, for seeking the limelight. There was a certain
So at least now she has someone who can kind of relate to her when it comes like to the media intrusion. He's kind of used to this.
Dionysus quality to the romance between Dodi Fayed and Diana. Perhaps their relationship was...
No, she's saying too much. I just want to focus on like the happy part of their relationship. But yeah, she met Dodi and he was okay with this. Okay with like her constantly being stalked by media. He was used to it, I guess to say. Not okay with it, but used to it. So he can handle it. So anyways, they ended up, her and Prince Charles, they separated for a while and then they eventually got divorced. And after the divorce, she announced that she wanted to live a more private life. Unfortunately, that did not happen.
Her life as a semi-detached royal soon proved untenable. She tried to scale down her public life.
Over the next few months, I will be seeking a more suitable way of combining a meaningful public role with hopefully a more private life.
Press intrusion had forced her decision.
This is a gym
Sadly,
again.
many charities lost their patron, but Diana soon returned to the public arena. She also sought a life as a private citizen. The paparazzi made her visits to the gym one of their main targets. After she dismissed her police bodyguards, there were no restraints on photographers' behavior. She was trailed while visiting her therapist, Susie Orbach.
So that's another thing. After she divorced Charles, she no longer had like the protection of the royal family and the security guards. So it kind of made it easier for like the paparazzi to infiltrate her and know where she's going, take images of her. It's so messed up. This is her on a trip with her friends. Like, she just wants to live a normal life. She's outside of this royal life now. She asked for privacy and that just was never given to her. They could not leave her alone.
free from harassment. Here, attempting to take a Caribbean holiday with a female friend, Diana found they were surrounded by photographers. Watch her reactions.
Come on, get lost.
She said get lost.
Go on, get lost. Thank you.
Opportunities to relax with friends were important to her. She was separated from her husband and felt increasingly isolated from the royal court. When her love affairs fell apart, as they always did, she could rely on a band of female confidants.
But even that, like, going on a trip with her friends, even that couldn't remain private for her. I just can't imagine being in her position. So anyways, they were separated for a while after the public found out. Actually, I think it was after her BBC interview with Martin Bashir, where she revealed like everything. And she talked so much about the royal family. And the Queen was like, that's it. You guys, it's time. You guys need to separate. So they were separated for a while. And then their divorce was official in 1996. With her divorce, she lost the title Her Royal Highness and all of the privileges that came along with it, including like the protection of like the royal security. She got a financial compensation of £17 million and also shared custody of the kids. This alone, like just divorcing the prince of the British, just the British family, I think was such a huge thing. I don't know too much about like the history of the royals and how many times this is done before, but the fact that she had the courage to do this and like take a chance at a second life, I thought was just so amazing. And kind of like Harry in a way, because his family didn't want him to marry Meghan Markle and he did so anyway. So I feel like he was taking after his mom in that way. Anyways, a year after her divorce, it's crazy like how soon her demise came after the fallout from the royal family. But a year after her divorce, she was on vacation in France with her boyfriend Dodi Al-Fayed. They actually met in a few years later before when Prince Charles competed with him in a polo match. So they knew each other, but they didn't get close until later. We saw earlier that he was a big Hollywood producer. He was known for dating other high-profile women, but here's just some other information on him for those of you who aren't familiar with Dodi.
Dodi Fayed was the first child born to Mohammed Al Fayed, owner of the London-based mega luxury department store Harrods. Dodi's father was also the owner of the Fulham football team and the Hotel Ritz in Paris, France, the last place where Princess Diana and Dodi were seen alive. His mother, Samira Khashoggi, was from a well-connected family with a weapons dealer brother and a father who was the personal doctor of Saudi Arabia's King Abdul Aziz. Dodi Fayed first started making a name for himself as a producer in the glitzy world of entertainment. Fayed is said to have had a desire to move out from under the shadow of his father. It was thanks to his father that he had the financial backing to do so, as he reportedly received an allowance of
$100,000 a month
from his family as a young adult. Fayed's career in Hollywood was quite successful. His production company, Allied Stars, backed 6 major films, including the Oscar-winning 1981 movie Chariots of Fire, and Dodi was credited as an executive producer on Dustin Hoffman's Hook and Demi Moore's The Scarlet Letter. With all that power and excess behind him, it's not a surprise that many of his friends have described Dodi Fayed as charming. His ex-wife, Suzanne Gregard, had nothing but positive things to
So yes. That was a little more information on Dodi. He was just like this super rich, super well-connected, super successful movie producer. So I see why he was comfortable, or at least was able to be with Diana, because he was used to having that kind of media coverage and paparazzi around him. This also caused drama for Dodi too, because he was with someone before he met Diana. He was with Kelly Fisher. I don't know who Kelly Fisher was. I mean, before this at least. But these are the images that broke out to the media about their relationship. Right here, this is when it all came out that they were together or seeing each other at least. And anyways, Kelly Fisher, who was Dodi's girlfriend, she said that this is the first time that she found out about them being together, and she had no idea before this. So all of this is also when they're on a yacht. I think, were they in Sardinia or Paris? This is like not long after their car accident, mind you. But anyways, Kelly Fisher, this is her with her attorney. This is them. They're showing off the large ring that was given to her by Dodi as proof of their engagement, because she ended up suing him for premarital charges of $500,000 that he promised her for sacrificing her Hollywood career. So she said that they were together, he promised her all of these things, and then he just left her for Diana. I thought this was so crazy. Like, there's just so many layers to this thing. This is an actual video from their press conference where they talk about it. This is her attorney here.
In the end, he betrayed her and has humiliated her in the eyes of her friends and her family.
I'm sorry, it's so quiet. Let me know if I should read some
aware
more.
of the relationship and have now seen the evidence of his public betrayal of Ms. Fisher's law. And now I would like to introduce Ms. Judith Dunaway, who is the mother of Kelly Fisher. A case of a frog who wishes to become a Prince Charming. Mr. Fayed may be able to afford princely clothing and act as though he is of royal blood.
Ooh, they're shit talking Dodi here.
But beneath that exterior, there is no prince. Only a frog in prince's clothing, or should I say, Harrod's clothing.
Because his dad owned Harrods. I don't know if you guys caught that before.
Various now know that appearances can be deceiving.
That's her mom.
No one's daughter deserves to be treated as my daughter was. Kelly loved him, trusted him, and has been treated very cruelly by him.
Guys, what do you think? What do you think? After seeing this video, I'm like, I don't know, it seems kind of fake. Not that this, their relationship isn't really like central to the story, but just seeing this and Kelly Fisher is suing Dodi for premarital like compensation. I don't know, like.
Kelly loved him, trusted him, and has been treated very cruelly by
Yeah,
him.
Exactly. She seems to be crying, but there's no tears.
And he has not only hurt her, but my whole family. He has integrated himself into our family, and I considered him friend. I love Kelly and support her in her effort to achieve the justice she deserves.
The justice she deserves. I don't want to talk badly about her. Just from based on that video, it doesn't seem real. And also I feel like the fact that it involved Princess Diana is just such an opportunity for her to cash in. That's it. That's all I'll say about that. Because that's all I know. That she was suing because he made her promises and he didn't follow through. But it just kind of seemed like she was kind of fake crying. But let's get back to Dodi and Diana. So he just got out of a relationship. She just got out of a relationship. They're in like this happy summer fling. This is August 1997. They're both in love and they're in Paris. His dad owns a hotel there, the whole Ritz Hotel there. And it just seems like such a magical summer for her. But that's not how it happened. This is so sad. It's so sad, you guys. It's like, as great of a woman she was, and this was her destiny. I can't come to terms with it, but whatever. It is what it is, so let's go on. So, they're in France together, they're in Paris, the two of them It's Saturday, August 30th, and surely enough, security cameras captured their last few moments together. Their last few hours together, actually. There's like images and videos of them from throughout the day. This is them at the elevator at the Ritz Hotel. All of these images actually of them at the Ritz Hotel. So they're at the Ritz Hotel. The reason why they're there is because of like the hotel security. Initially, they had planned to have dinner somewhere else, but the paparazzi caught on and they knew where they were going. So they avoided that plan. They said, let's just have dinner at the Ritz because it's his dad's place. The security is better. So that's what they did. And then after dinner, this is an image of Diana leaving the hotel. What happened actually is that they had a car waiting for them at the main entrance of the hotel, kind of as like a decoy to the photographers, because that's where they were all waiting for them to come out. So they had that car waiting for them. It was like a Range Rover, but at the back entrance they had this black Mercedes as well. And with this, they were able to get a little bit ahead of the paparazzi, but not much. The paparazzi ended up catching on. They knew where they were and they started trailing them. This is who was in the car. This is Henry Paul. He is like, I think he was the head. Yeah, he was the head of hotel security for the Ritz. So he worked for Dodi and his dad. It was reported that he had some drinks earlier in that night. We'll get to more of that. This is Trevor Reese-Jones. He was Diana's bodyguard. And then, of course, we have Diana and Dodi in the back seat. In this image, so a big part of this accident and what happened to them is the fact that they weren't wearing seatbelts, the two of them. And also, it's like, oh my God, you guys, this is so sad. But she was like hiding from paparazzi. Look, like even in this image, she's turning away. And their whole trip after this, after they drove away from the Ritz Hotel, she's like, you can see her in any images, like she's ducking away from the paparazzi. It's like, you can't, it was hard for her to wear a seatbelt. That wasn't like her primary concern. She's just trying to like avoid the paparazzi. This here is an image. I wish I can show you guys this bigger. Actually, let me see. This shows like the route that they took. It was especially weird because, let's just make this bigger. Okay, here it is. People found it very strange because, so here they are, they're at the Ritz Hotel, and this is their destination. They're heading to Dodi's apartment. The strange thing is that the driver, Henry Paul, who's sitting right here, this is Diana and Dodi in the back, instead of taking this direct route to Dodi's apartment, he took this Alma underpass. So it goes this way and then to the apartment. But there's just so many things involved. I mean, they have the paparazzi chasing them. There's so many pressures on him. We don't really know why he didn't take the direct route to Dodi's apartment. And then here in the Alma underpass, that's where the accident happens. It's so crazy and it's really sad. I don't know what else to say about it. So the accident happened in the Alma underpass. Here, there was like an exit right before the tunnel. Oh, let's make this a little bit smaller so you guys can see. But there was an exit like right before he entered the tunnel that he could have taken, but he did not. And maybe, I mean, it could be because he was being chased. We'll see more images of that later. There's so many reasons he could have missed that exit, but all of this plays into like the conspiracies of what really happened, because this could not be explained. There is not like a for sure reason as to why he did this. Also, it's important to note he was speeding. He was going 70 in a 30 miles per hour zone. And as he approached the tunnel, he lost control of the vehicle and crashed into one of the pillars inside. It was like the 13th pillar, which is more towards like the center of the tunnel. And then the car crashed. Here are some images of the crash. It's so just really sad. I just want to show you guys better. Like, look at the car. I can't believe it. When I saw, this is like my first time seeing this stuff, and I'm like, I can't believe it was that bad. I remember AB kind of like telling me about the accident and why it was so tragic, but I didn't know for myself until I like looked into it. And it's just like, I'm like, oh my God, I was so sad. So, like I mentioned earlier, Diana and Dodie were not wearing seatbelts. Neither was Henry Paul. Dodie and the driver, Henry Paul, they died immediately at the scene. And then Diana and her bodyguard, who was in the passenger seat, Trevor Reese-Jones, they were taken to the hospital. Luckily, Trevor Reese-Jones, he did survive. This is him today. Well, not today. I'm sorry. This is probably, he looks a little bit younger, so it's probably right after the accident. He suffered severe brain and chest injuries, and every bone in his face was broken. He spent 10 days in a coma, and surgeons had to use 150 pieces of titanium to rebuild his face, using old family photos and as a guide. That is just so crazy and messed up. Also, I read that because people were so like interested in what he had to say, like his story of what had happened, but he couldn't even talk. Like I don't know if it was like months or years, but there was a period where like he could not even talk after this accident. And even after that, it ended up, he didn't remember what happened. All he remembered was getting into the car. Everything after that was just like a kind of like a blackout. Diana, on the other hand, she had, I don't have images of that, do I? No. Diana, on the other hand, she suffered a concussion, a broken arm, a cut thigh, chest injuries, and doctors had operated on her for 2 hours but couldn't get her heart to work, and she passed away in the morning. She was only 36. Her kids were 15 and 12. It's so sad. Here are just some like, it like shook the world, the news, but here's all these like front covers of newspapers announcing her death. And here, just her sons and Charles visiting the memorial. Like people would visit the Buckingham Palace and just cover it in flowers and just nice things for her in her memory. Here's actually, this gives you a description of how the accident happened. I have to keep adjusting the volume of these videos because they're also, some of them are just so low and some of them are not high enough.
Some photographers on motorcycles pursuing a quarry they had hunted all day. We now know the driver was drunk and travelling too fast. As the car entered the tunnel under the Pont de l'Alma, there was an horrific crash which echoed around the world.
We have been reporting this evening Diana
has been seriously injured in
Dodi Al-Fayed apparently was killed in the
The
crash.
accident occurred just after midnight.
Among the first on the scene were the photographers who had been chasing the speeding Mercedes. There is no doubt that while the dead and injured were still in the car, some of these men were taking close-up photographs.
I took pictures, yes.
This is one of the photographers. It's so awful. I don't even want to hear him talk. I really don't. So not only was the accident caused by, and mind you, like this is what the investigations concluded, but a lot of them concluded that the driver was drunk. We'll talk more about that, but also that they were being pursued and chased down by photographers and paparazzi on motorcycles. This is just so sad. It's like, and this is with her asking for more privacy. It's like she's dealt with this for so many years. And not to mention, instead of like calling out for help or trying to get the ambulance there sooner, the photographers were taking photos of her and of the crash before reaching out for help. I think that is so disgusting and so awful. Here, I guess like all of this is coming to light again because of the show The Crown. I haven't seen it myself personally, but that's why a lot of people today are more familiar with the situation. This kind of shows, this is from the show, this is not like real footage, but they're reenacting it. They're showing like how invasive the paparazzi was. Look, this is them right before they entered the tunnel. And then the fact that they chose to like photograph the accident instead of getting them help is just so wild to me. I don't know. It is what it is. So yes, Diana passed away. And news of this just kind of shook the world and shook people everywhere. This may contain, I don't know, all of my images. You guys, I put all of my images I wanted to show you guys in an imager album, and all of them are saying that you need to be 18 or older to view, and I have to like confirm. What is this? None of them are like, oh, I guess showing like the car accident after the accident. It doesn't even show like graphic images like that. Whatever. Anyways. So yes, she passed away. The world is in mourning, and it just, the grieving public put flowers in her memory outside the palace, and 2.5 billion viewers tuned into her televised funeral. Does this show it? Yeah, so anyways, they all tuned into her funeral. It was like just like this big world event. This is really sad too. This is her brother. Is this Earl?
Yeah. Diana's brother, Earl Spencer.
So this is her brother that got her the interview with Martin Bashir. He was deceived by Martin Bashir, I should say, into thinking that Diana was being spied on and her stories were being sold. He later said that like he feels bad, but at the end of the day, like he did his due diligence. He did inspect the reports. They all seemed to be like accurate, and he introduced Diana to Martin. And then that huge explosive interview broke out. But it's like, I agree. It's like, what more could he have done? He thought he was doing the right thing. But this is him at her funeral.
It would appear that every proprietor and editor of every publication that has paid for intrusive and exploitative photographs of her, encouraging greedy and ruthless individuals to risk everything in pursuit of Diana's image, has blood on his hands today.
Now that Diana, Princess of Wales, is dead, she seems more than ever like a beautiful, sad butterfly who flew ever so briefly into the light and was burned.
You press that killed her.
Even as the world condemns the paparazzi who may have contributed to her death, they're out there, snapping away at what's left.
That's so sad. And how she described her as a beautiful, sad butterfly. It's like, that's so accurate. She was just so sad. And it's like, you would think she's so happy, she's on top of the world, but that just wasn't the case. And it says something about her for not just playing along with what the royal family expected of her, what the world expected of her. But anyways, that was her brother talking about it. That one shook me. That is so sad. And also not, I mean, like talking about her funeral, but the royal family, their response was very delayed. They actually got some backlash for not hoisting the flag after her death at Buckingham Palace. I guess that's just customary to do after someone passes away. But their reasoning was that the Queen was away at Balmoral is it Balmoral Palace or just Balmoral Estate? I guess that's where Diana lived, but the Queen was there and she was watching Diana's kids, her grandkids, making sure everything was okay. And they said that they don't hoist a flag when the Queen is not at the residence. So that was their excuse. But regardless, 5 days later, I think it was 5 days. Yeah, 5 days after Diana's death, and just 1 day before the funeral, the Queen finally gave this statement about it.
First, I want to pay tribute to Diana myself. She was an exceptional and gifted human being. In good times and bad, she never lost her capacity to smile and laugh, nor to inspire others with her warmth and kindness. I admired and respected her for her energy and commitment to others, and especially for her devotion to her 2 boys.
For her devotion to her 2 boys. So despite all of this and everything that Diana went through, and like so many sources, they all mentioned like how committed she was to her family and her boys. But yeah, and on the topic of the Queen herself, I haven't read anything anywhere that says that she was like mean or cruel to Diana. All I've seen was that she tried to be there for her. She did talk to her when she found out that like Diana was kind of struggling, like adapting to royal life. And she tried, she really did, but she couldn't understand her and what she was going through. And then like, you know, with the explosive interview when she was revealing all of this stuff about the royal family, it's like, what else can the Queen do? She didn't talk bad about Diana ever, just that she did say that after the interview came out that it's best for her and Charles to separate. So from the Queen's perspective, I kind of understand. It's like, what else could she have done? But like personally, she didn't do anything that like attacked Diana directly. Queen, to the public's knowledge, I have to say, to the public's knowledge. But like, of course, like I mentioned earlier, like Diana was doing things differently, and that's just not how the royal family operated. So in that perspective, I'm sure like I can see why there was tension between her and the Queen. Behind the scenes, it was different. Oh, for sure. Yes, behind the scenes, I'm sure it was different. But Diana herself did say, like, in the beginning, like, the Queen was there for her. And she did try to help, but she just couldn't understand what she was going through. Chess says, hi, AB. The bodyguard crash is so suspicious. Yeah, and Diana did talk about that in the interview, too. So there was just all these things that kind of building up to it. And in terms of like the Queen specifically, I think she kind of had like this idea of, you know, Diana was like this young, naive, innocent girl, and she thought that she would just kind of like fit into this role so perfectly and obey and do what, you know, the role called of her. But that's not how Diana operated. She did things her own way, and she paved her own path for the better. It's not like she messed things up, but it's just not how the royals operated. So now we're getting into the actual conspiracies. I thought that it was important to talk about the background and everything that led up to this, and why it was important for the people to dig deeper and find out what really happened to Diana. So as you guys know, the car accident happened in France. So initially there was like a French investigation. This happened immediately after the crash. And what the French concluded was that the driver was impaired. Henry Paul had some drinks, they say, but the paparazzi also contributed to the crash by making him drive faster. So the French initially charged 9 photographers with manslaughter. The charges were dropped, though, after the investigation concluded that they weren't directly responsible, and they kind of just pinned it entirely on the driver, Henry Paul, being drunk. Here's a photo of like the lineup, actually. These are the 9 photographers who were charged. This is that one who we saw. I didn't want to hear him talk, but he spoke briefly in that interview of like the photographers, and the interview was asking him did you take photos of Diana in the crash after it happened? And he said, yeah. So these are the 9 photographers. And we'll learn more about them actually in just a bit, because they definitely played a big role in all of this. The interesting thing is, so the accident happened in France. The French investigated immediately, but the UK, the investigation didn't happen until 7 years later. This alone, I feel like, is just so crazy to me. Like, we're talking about Princess Diana here. They didn't care to look into this a little bit deeper than just like a car accident. The reason for this is that the Coroner's Act states that in their country that an inquest must be made for bodies that are brought back for burial, and that was unfortunately the case for Princess Diana. But the media kept pushing for an investigation. Tabloids had like covers for like years saying like, why no inquest? Why are we not digging deeper into Princess Diana's death? Like, we need to know what happened. It couldn't have been something as simple as a car accident, especially when she's like voiced concerns before of like something like this happening to her. So eventually, after being pressured, the UK opened up an investigation 7 years later. It was called Operation Paget. It was established in 2004. The accident happened in 1997. So yeah, 7 years later. So the royal coroner formally opened the inquest, and he also tasked the ex-commissioner of the Metropolitan Police, which is, you know, aka Britain's top cop, Lord Stevens, to investigate how the French conducted their investigation. So he obtained reports and evidence, and he concluded, Lord Stevens, that there were issues in how the French investigation was handled of Princess Diana's death. He said that he had got new witnesses and new forensic evidence, but then in 2006, 2 years later, when people thought like, oh, it's finally ready, the Lord Stevens is going to release his report about Princess Diana and her death. But no, instead, the royal coroner said the inquest was too time-consuming and too difficult, and he resigned. This is so crazy. It's like, whether or not it was just an accident, all of these things, it's like there's just so many pieces to the puzzle, and it doesn't make sense. And I don't blame people for wanting to look into it deeper. But yeah, the royal coroner, he resigned. So now there's like this inquest had been opened, but no one to run the inquest. And now we'll get into the actual conspiracies of all of this. There's so many. I didn't know like which ones to dig deeper into. These are some of them that Operation Paget kind of investigated to see if they were true or not. But one of those conspiracies is that Henry Paul, the driver, was not drunk. So there's claims that despite police reports, he wasn't drunk, and people use this security camera footage at the Ritz to show Henry Paul, well, you can see here what he was doing, but they use this to show that he wasn't drunk. Oh, I don't know why it's starting at the beginning. What? Okay, sorry, I don't know why the video is just like not playing. There's like a warning before where it says the following content may contain self-harm topics. I understand and wish to proceed, but then it just goes back to the YouTube page. Oh, okay, here it is, I think.
2 days after the crash, French police stressed the car's speed and how drunk the driver was, but the evidence for that is poor. These enhanced images are from the Ritz's own video. They show that 30 minutes before the crash, Henri Paul squats and ties his shoelaces. He transfers his weight gracefully from left to right and gets up again without a hitch or stumble.
So what they're saying there is that the fact that Henry Paul is able to bend down, tie his shoelace, and then get back up and walk away is reason enough that he was not drunk. This, I'm not, yeah, okay, it's kind of a stretch. The fact that he was, I guess you can say, sober enough to do that does not mean he was sober enough to drive. So this part kind of doesn't add up to me. Yeah, I agree, it's iffy. That does not say that he was able to drive at that point. So I don't know why they use that as like a defense of why he was not drunk. I don't think that proves anything, unfortunately. But the weird thing is, this part is really weird. The toxicology report of Henry Paul showed that not only did he have 2 times the legal limit of alcohol in his system, but also there was a mix of prescription drugs and also a high carbon monoxide level of 20.7%. And this just didn't make sense because someone with a level of carbon monoxide like that just would cause them to behave erratically. Here's some testimonies about that specifically.
Behavior.
Impossible. Car plus de 20% de monoxyde de carbone, on ne peut pas conduire. On ne peut pas se tenir debout. On vomit. On a mal à la tête. Donc on aurait décelé chez M. Paul un comportement tout à fait anormal. Il n'aurait pas pu prendre la voiture puisque au moins le garde du corps l'aurait empêché de prendre le volant.
The first thing we wanted was an...
So yeah, that guy was just saying that it's not possible because he just, in those security camera footage, he would have been behaving erratically. There's no way he could even pretended to be normal.
Independent post-mortem, and that was denied without reason. They wouldn't give a reason why we couldn't have one. We then asked for an independent analysis of these body samples, and that was denied. We then asked whether we could be present at any subsequent examination of Henri Paul's body, and that was denied. All of these things without reason.
So the toxicology report was just not adding up, and Henry Paul's family directly requested to investigate his body, do their own autopsy instead of having it held by the government. They wanted to kind of like fund their own look into it, and it was denied without reason. That is so strange. We're talking about the victim's family here, and they wouldn't allow it.
The police got a search warrant for Henri Paul's flat. His friend Garrick had the keys and watched.
J'ai eu quand même la nette impression que le rapport de perquisition était quand même un petit peu orienté. Parce que vous voyez, on a toujours fait on a toujours dit il y a une bouteille de martini dans le frigo alors qu'on ne buvait pas de martini. On disait qu'il y avait une bouteille de Ricard. Tout d'un coup, il semblait que son bar était extraordinaire alors qu'il était tout à fait commun. J'en ai un moi-même à peu près du même ordre.
Et vous dites que vous sentez qu'il était orienté parce qu'on cherchait...
So this is Henry Paul's roommate. The police investigated, got a search warrant for their apartment, and his roommate is basically saying that the search was very focused. They were very determined in proving that he had an alcohol problem, but his roommate is saying his bar looked like anybody else's. He had, there was a lot of alcohol, but he had just as much soda as much as he did alcohol. So I don't know. But it's also his roommate saying this, giving this testimony. It's all very complicated.
Puisqu'on n'a jamais dit qu'il y avait, par exemple, 240 bouteilles de Coca-Cola.
Il y avait 240 bouteilles?
Oui, de boîtes de Coca-Cola light, puisque c'était sa boisson.
His favorite drink was Coca-Cola Light.
Préférée. Là, le rapport...
And the report didn't mention that. So they mentioned how much alcohol he had, but not of the other beverages he had. Also, there are like other testimonies too, not just his roommate, but there are like witness testimonies saying that he did not drink that day. Like he did visit a bar The bartender said he didn't have anything to drink. And this is like the bar that was like right underneath his apartment, something like that. But there are other testimonies saying people saying they did not think he was drunk. So all of this was just to say that they're making it seem like the investigation was very determined on pinning the accident on his drunk driving. And so this is all like the government's investigation. And so Dodi's dad personally funded his own investigation to look into things. And I feel like he kind of had he felt at least a personal obligation to do this because Henry Paul, the driver, was his employee, essentially. He was the head security of the Ritz Hotel, which his dad owned. So I feel like he felt like a personal obligation to prove that there was no wrongdoing on their part, and maybe like that if there was something else involved, which he really believed. So he funded 4 of the top pathologists to examine the post-mortem report, which found critical errors that made the report unreliable. And these are like actually a lot of errors that they found. The autopsy wasn't timed. There was no description of how his body was identified. And there was like 22 or 23 other bodies in the morgue that night. And no explanation for the level of carbon monoxide. That I think is so strange. How do you include that there's a 20% carbon monoxide level in his blood, but don't explain how that's possible when it doesn't add up to his behaviors from earlier that evening? This video here talks more about it. I don't know why it does that. So yeah, I don't know why this video gives you like a warning and you have to
The final conclusion.
Oh, there we go. Sometimes it works and sometimes it doesn't.
Conclusions of the 4 pathologists were damning. The results on carbon monoxide in the blood are inexplicable as the attitude of Dr. Pepin and Professor Leconte, who continue to present arguments which have no rigor and no scientific value to justify their results. The hypothesis that there was a mix-up in the samples needs to be seriously considered.
There was a mix-up and the samples needs to be seriously considered. That is like a huge conclusion to come up with after reading a toxicology or a post-mortem report. But then again, it's like these pathologists were hired by Dodi's family. So were they biased? I don't know. But like they're medical experts, you would think that they would be ethical in all of this.
Considered. 22 other corpses were in the morgue that night. The Paul family, backed by Al Fayed, sued the state to obtain their son's samples so they could do a DNA test to check it was really his blood. The French Attorney General took over the case, but so far the family has not succeeded. The judge...
But so far the family has not succeeded. That's so sad. It's like you should have that right to do that if you wanted. So another like angle to all of this, they say if Henry Paul was not drunk, like the investigation concluded, people think maybe he was hired to intentionally crash the car. And this conspiracy stems from the fact that there was a suspicious amount of funds transferred into Henry Paul's bank account shortly before the accident happened. And this is really weird. I feel like it is really weird, but at the same time, they would be smarter than this. Like, why would they leave a trail like that? That's such like an obvious flag that there was some kind of wrongdoing going on. So I don't know. And also, why would he accept all of this money just to die? Maybe for his family. I don't know. But it just, either way, it's like it leaves a trail that I feel like the people, if anyone was behind this, they would not have left a trail like that. They would have been smarter than that. So the second conspiracy is that even though the investigations concluded that Henry Paul was drunk, that's the main cause of the accident based on both investigations for the French and the UK investigations. But that was their initial explanation. But then it was discovered that there were pieces of another car. There was another car present in the tunnel when the accident happened. It was a white Fiat Uno. Pieces of it were found near the crash. So they think that there was another car that caused the accident and then they drove away. And people say, like, if that car was innocent, they had nothing, if it wasn't intentional, like, why would they drive away then? They would have stayed if they were innocent. Here is an explanation of the theory that a white Fiat Uno crashed into the black Mercedes when all of this happened. Doing that same thing to me. There we go.
The inquiry had leaked Henri Paul was drunk. Then another new development, which appeared to explain how the accident happened. The police said they'd found debris from a white Fiat Uno in the tunnel. It was suggested the Fiat was in front of the Mercedes.
The Mercedes wing mirror was found at this point, with traces of another car's paintwork and shards of a Fiat tail light. The Mercedes was thrown into the right-hand wall, then hurled across into the 13th pillar in the middle of the tunnel.
The police started a massive search operation, but only questioned owners of white Fiat Unos in the Paris area. They drew a blank. But Al-Fayed's detectives did better and tracked down this Fiat Uno. Its rear tail light had been fixed, and it belonged to a paparazzi.
La princesse. Te voilà bien.
His name was James Anderson. His past was even more mysterious than Henri Paul's. James Anderson made no secret of the fact he had a white Fiat Uno when French television profiled him 3 years ago.
Isn't this so crazy? Isn't that so crazy? So let me just cut it short. He goes on to tell a story how, and this is before the car accident happens, but in like some kind of interview for him, he talks about how he was photographing the head of, or the CEO of Fiat on his yacht. And then the next day he ran into him at some kind of like port, whatever, and he tells him, oh, I was just photographing you yesterday and I'm here today, and blah blah blah, who cares? The owner of Fiat was like, oh, if you can drive this fast, I'll gift you this car. So there's like a whole story behind it too, about like him like driving fast in his Fiat, and the fact that there's evidence of a white Fiat which he owned that was on the crime scene. That is so crazy, regardless of if he caused the accident or not. It's just like the fact that this evidence is present is just so weird to me. And also, so what's really weird, we talk more about this photographer, but there's like an anonymous source that talks about him saying that it's not normal for a paparazzi photographer to have those kinds of political connections. Any day now. I don't know why this video specifically is doing that. Maybe I'll just find it. Okay, where does that guy talk about it?
During the summer, Diana...
I think this is it.
...had been photographed by James Anderson. He was a paparazzi with political connections at the highest level. He was the official photographer to one French Prime Minister, and friendly enough with another, Lionel Jospin, to share a motorbike with him. Yet French Special Branch was so worried by his history, they'd started to investigate him as one of their senior officers revealed to us.
This is so weird. Someone was so scared to like speak publicly about it, they had to do it anonymously.
Qu'il avait passé plusieurs jours sur le yacht où se trouvait la princesse et Alfayed, ce qui franchement n'est pas très normal, n'est pas très courant pour un journaliste. Il était sur le yacht même. Et pas 1 heure, mais il y aurait passé sans doute 2 ou 3 jours. Oui, ce sont des sources fiables.
Richard.
So yeah, that guy was saying that it's just weird, like all of these connections that this guy had, it's not normal for a paparazzi photographer. And I kind of like, I get what he's saying. It's like, usually they're annoyed or they try to avoid the paparazzi, but this guy had an in with like all of these political figures. So one theory as to why this guy, James Anderson, was able to get like all of these like famous photographs and stuff is because he was part of MI6. Here's like an ex-MI6 guy talking about it. I feel like this gives like a good explanation.
Recalls a figure like Anderson in MI6.
The MI6 have a cadre of people who have their own profession, their own life, they do their own jobs. They can be barristers, they can be all sorts of things, who just happen to have a skill which is occasionally useful to MI6, and they kind of work on a short-term contractual basis for MI6. They had one guy who was a photographer, and his normal job was as a paparazzi photographer, but occasionally he would do work for MI6.
French security services had evidence Anderson was in the Alma Tunnel.
Et il se serait vanté, dans son entourage, quelque temps après, d'avoir même donc photographié et même enregistré, sans doute, les derniers instants, du moins sous le fond de l'Alma, de la princesse Diana. C'est un témoignage qu'on a recueilli dans son entourage.
The widow of one of Anderson's friends confirmed he had boasted to them he was at the scene.
So yeah, now we just go on to like testimonies of people saying that he confirmed he was at the scene. It's just so weird. It's like so many pieces that just don't add up. In this, I think we showed this image earlier, but I think this, which one would he be? What the hell? I don't even know. They all look the same. James Anderson. Let's see. Where are you? Okay, so I think it was... I think it was this guy. But I don't know, why do they all look the same to me? But he was there. He was one of the guys who was like initially charged with the murder too, because he was present. Or chasing them down. So anyways, this guy had been linked to photographing other public figures who died shortly after. And then he mysteriously died too. They say it was a suicide, but his friends say otherwise. But either way, if this is true, it puts a flaw in the main conclusion of the investigation, which is that the crash was caused by drunk driving, which is not true. And another strange thing that might support the theory of James Anderson being present at the scene is this photo here. This photo. It was retrieved after Operation Paget from the UK, and people say it's just weird. So here you see Diana turning away from paparazzi, but also it's like, for someone to have captured this image, they would have had to been exactly in front of the car. Oh, you can't see me. Exactly in front of the car. And there were reports of like bright white flashes in the tunnel right before the accident happened. But also it's like witness reports say that the flash happened in different areas at different times, so it's not really conclusive, but there were reports of white flashing lights, and there's also this image which must have been taken in front of the vehicle. So someone got in front of them. And to our knowledge, we just know that there was paparazzi trailing them, but not someone that actually got like in front of them. And here's like a testimony
How King Charles won the hearts of Britons
6.
despite Prince Harry's attacks.
Oh, there we go. I'm like, who is talking? This guy talks more about it. Any day now.
In the files, we also found this photograph, taken between 20 and 22 minutes past midnight.
There is one picture or two which is obviously taken from before the car. Somebody has to drive before the car to take that picture, especially since you see Trevor Rhys-Jones looking into the mirror. But I can't say exactly where that picture was taken. It was obviously taken somewhere in the tunnel, but I can't say if it's in the beginning of the tunnel or in the middle or after some sort of accident or wherever.
But it's taken in the Alma tunnel.
Yes.
So who took this photo? We may never know. 17 days after the crash, the paparazzi were no longer under arrest for manslaughter, but were still charged with failure to help the victims. The inquiry had leaked Henri Paul was drunk. Then another new development, which appeared to
About the white Fiat Uno, but yeah, it's all just very weird. And the guy saying, like, regardless, it had to have come from in front of the vehicle and that it was for sure in the tunnel where the crash happened. Another popular theory behind the crash is that her car had been tampered with, and this roots from the fact that so this black Mercedes that Diana was in during the crash, it belonged to a limousine company. It was a rental, and before they rented this, a few months before, the car was stolen from the company, and they ended up retrieving it. They got it back, but all of the electrical parts were torn out. So they had to do some repairs on it. They restored everything, and people think that maybe something was wrong with the replacement parts that they had put back in. The fact alone that this car was stolen and repaired a few months before the crash, I think is so weird and worth looking into. But that alone is another theory on its own. And another angle that kind of like points to this theory is the fact that Diana, 10 months before the car crash, she wrote a letter and she gave it to her butler for safekeeping. Her butler was like a close friend of hers, but she gave it to him for safekeeping and said to hold on to it until something happened to her, and then he can kind of like bring it to light. But in it, she wrote, "This particular phase in my life is the most dangerous." And this is what really like shook people up too after the butler went public with this. This particular phase in my life is the most dangerous. The name, it was redacted, but it was planning an accident in my car, brake failure, or serious head injury in order to make path for the prince to marry or to remarry. This part I never understood. Like, why does she have to be gone for the prince to remarry? If they're divorced, why can't he just remarry? But regardless, the fact that she predicted a car crash shortly before is just so strange. It's so strange. And it's in her handwriting. Like, if you see other letters that she had written before, it's the same handwriting. So for sure she did it. Whose name did they redact? We don't know. Why did the butler do this? Redact the name? We don't know. But all of this is to say, regardless if the crash was like intentional or not, like clearly based on this letter, she was suspicious and she feared for her life. That has to stand for something. So another theory is that maybe Diana was killed by members of the royal family because she was pregnant and Dodi was going to propose. All of this is so crazy. When I first read that, I'm like, come on, really? I feel like people are digging too deep. But no, there's like basis for all of these conspiracies, and it's so wild. So the theory is mostly pushed by Dodi's father, and he blamed Prince Philip specifically, Queen Elizabeth's husband, This is a clip of him talking about it.
French and British inquiries both found a speeding drunk driver, one of Mohammed El Fayed's employees, was to blame. But he claimed with no evidence that they were murdered on the orders of Prince Philip.
Murder, definitely.
Why would anyone be killed?
I love that. Murdered, definitely.
Dodi and Diana.
Because they still don't accept that Dodi, my son, an Egyptian and Muslim, can be the stepfather of the future king.
And kept a shrine to them in his department store called Innocent Victims.
Her memory, her legacy will stay forever.
He stayed in public life for...
That is so sad. I feel like I keep saying that throughout all of this, but it's so sad and tragic. Like, he kept a shrine of them. He has like a statue, and then also that's another place for people to go in their memory and leave flowers, but it was his son and his love, Diana. So anyways, he claims that the royal family couldn't accept the idea of an Egyptian Muslim being stepfather to the future king. And also that Diana's future child, if she really was pregnant, would be the half-sibling of the future king. And he says they just couldn't accept that. For this to be true, he's implying that the royal family is racist. I don't know too much about this, but I do know that Meghan Markle spoke of this a little bit before, not long ago, saying that the family was concerned about the color of her child's skin, what it would be. So let that speak for itself. And another angle that kind of points why people think maybe she was pregnant. Dodi's dad pushed for this theory a lot, but also Diana had said not long before the crash, she announced that there was a big surprise coming. So although we never got to find out what the big surprise was, that's what people speculated, that it would be she would be pregnant. But her autopsy and the blood tests showed no signs of pregnancy. And also, she had never mentioned being pregnant to anyone, not any close friends or anything. It was just based on this hint of a big surprise. So who knows? It could be a stretch. We don't know. Also, Operation Paget, when they looked into this, they got witness evidence from friends of Diana stating that around the time she was in her normal menstrual cycle and that contraception was being used. But I think that this is such weird, like, witness evidence. Like, who talks about that? I don't tell in normal conversation tell my friends about that. Like, I'm on my period. No, or like, no, you say you're on your period, but like whether or not you're in your normal menstrual cycle, and if you're using, especially that part, if you're using contraception, I don't know about you guys. Does anyone talk about that? I just found that part to be so weird and so like unconventional. I don't know. But anyways, that's just one of the conclusions of Operation Paget and why they debunked this theory of that Diana may have been pregnant and that the royal family would not be happy about it. But strangely enough, also, on the day of the crash, Dodi picked up a ring that he and Diana selected 10 days before. This is crazy. So him and Diana supposedly went to a jewelry store. She picked out a ring, and then on the day of the crash, he had it on him because that same day he picked it up from the jewelry store. So they were waiting a while for it to be ready, and then he went and picked it up. Here's more information on that.
Suite costs $14,000 a night.
They're talking about the suite that he stayed in, Diana and Dodi stayed in at the Ritz Hotel. It's like this extravagant suite that only like just A-listers stayed at.
At 6:30, Dodi kept an important appointment at this exclusive jewellery store across the square from the Ritz. He had managed to give the paparazzi the slip and he went in unnoticed to Rapossi's to pick up a ring he and Diana had chosen earlier. When was it that Dodi ordered the ring from you?
Yes, it was 10 days before the accident in Monte Carlo. They went to our main shop in Monte Carlo, and the couple, so they asked us to give her the ring in Paris, here in this shop.
So they selected it together. Was it her choice or
Yes.
his choice?
Her shop choice, I think, yes.
Same way she picked her own engagement ring,
Were
just
they
saying.
This is the thing. We shall never know. If this planet lasts for another 1,000 years, people will still be speculating about this. Dodi never commented about their relationship, nor did the princess. And I think it is a fact that their very reticence indicated to me the depth of the sincerity on both sides.
Around 7 o'clock, Dodi and Diana...
It just goes on to talk about the timeline of events for that night, but it's just so sad. There's evidence that they picked out a ring. He went and picked it up after it was ready. And was he going to propose? We'll never know. That's so sad to me. Okay, moving on. Another theory that the investigation looked into was that Princess Diana's medical care was sabotaged. And this is because she was treated at the scene of the crash instead of immediately being taken to the hospital. And at some point on the route to the hospital, the ambulance stopped for a few minutes so that the medics can inject her with adrenaline. And also the hospital was only 3 miles from the crash site, but the ambulance took 1 hour and 43 minutes to arrive after the crash. So some people argue that if she was taken directly to the hospital with no delays, she could have survived. But anyways, the theory for this is rooted in differences between like the French and UK and how they handled these types of situations. So the French, they believe in treating the victims on the scene before taking them to the hospital, but the UK prioritizes taking them directly to the hospital. So there's just like differences in how they conduct that. She was in France when it happened, and unfortunately that's just how they went about it. They tried to treat her before taking her to the hospital, but her injuries were just too much for them to handle at the time. And also, regardless of whether or not she was taken to the hospital right away, doctors generally agree that she would have died anyways based on her injuries. In 2019, a forensic pathologist said that the cause of death was a badly placed tear in a vein of her lung, and that this was like incredibly rare. He's never seen anything like that in his medical career. And he also said that it could have been prevented if she was wearing her seatbelt. There were multiple medical accounts actually that said that it could have been avoided if she was wearing her seatbelt. This is such a sad fact, but also at the same time, it's like she wasn't because she was trying to avoid the paparazzi. Like she was ducking down from them, turning away from them. And I'm sure that's just not what was like on her mind at the time. So all of the inquiries, so all the investigations concluded the same thing about this theory, that it's just part of a conspiracy, nothing more, and that she would have died from her injuries regardless. But yeah, those are all of like kind of the theories I looked into. Everything else I'm kind of like, if immediately hinted to, that can't be true. Like it doesn't make sense. I just kind of brushed past it because people were so sad. They also mentioned that in like a lot of things that I read, that the world was just shook and they wanted or they needed to find a deeper meaning to this because it's so tragic. Like, how does that happen? Such a beloved figure tragically passes away in a car accident. But yeah, when I first started looking into this, my initial conclusion, like personally, was just that, like, it's super tragic, but it was an accident, and I feel like people are kind of looking for a deeper meaning that's not really there. And I'm so glad I looked into this more, because there were so many layers that I had missed previously, and I was shocked. And I'm so glad that's not what the conclusion I left at. And like, regardless if it was just an accident, there's just too many layers to this. And the motives were definitely there. And there's just too many things that don't add up. But regardless to say, like, at least she had this platform. She did what she could with it. She made a real difference in the world and in the monarchy. And I feel like it just says so much, that the fact that she was kind and how personable she was with the public and with people, that was revolutionary. I find that so crazy. You would think that's just normal, but it wasn't before she actually started doing that, like being so personable with the public and shaking their hands and hugging them. But yeah, it was just kind of revolutionary to be kind. And also, just the fact that Charles is married to Camilla now, it upsets me so much. I feel like it should have been Diana, but maybe she wouldn't have wanted that role anyways. But yeah, I'm glad I can finally share all of this with you guys, because I've just kind of been like torn on all of it. I didn't know about any of this before looking into it, and it made me so sad. And now I'm realizing, after all of this, it's been a 3-hour presentation. I wasn't really looking at chat because I didn't want to get like thrown off. But what did you guys think? And if you had any questions, now's probably a good time to ask, because I didn't see it before. But I'm glad I did this anyways, because now I'll know how to do things differently for next time. You prepared so much. Queen was iconic. Thank you, Mojo. Thank you. You guys, I did. It took me so long, and like, what held me back is, okay, so we live in a studio. Behind me is a TV, and when Vanderpump is playing, like, it's just so hard to not pay attention, especially because like I just wanted to know what happened with Scandival. But also I wanted to make sure I did the proper research on this. So that's why it took me a while. And every time I'm like, okay, the next stream is going to be good. We're doing like a deep dive. There's research. And then it didn't come out to be that way. I'm like, no, I was so sad to like delay it. But I wanted to do this justice. And I didn't want to just like kind of half-ass it. I listened to many podcasts about this and I learned more things. Amazing effort. Thank you. Oh my God, that is so sweet. Thank you so much. That means so much to me. I'm glad you guys all kind of had something to learn from this. The Columbine case is a deep rabbit hole. Oh my God, I didn't know there was more to that either, Katafi. But yeah, I was kind of thinking on like what to do next. Like maybe talk about Tupac. Because that's like another like, you know, popular figure that it just kind of went unsolved. And it's like, how? When they're so famous and there's so much involved. And I know that there's been like recent revelations. So I thought that might be the next thing if I have some time to look into that. But I don't know. What did you guys think about this? Is it worth doing like another sort of deep dive? Yeah, they just that's why I was thinking to do this case specifically, because they just arrested someone for it. But someone said that there was like something posted in the Discord, so I just want to check that out. Oops. Okay, I'm opening it now. Will you post a VOD? I missed the first hour. I will. That was kind of the whole thing. I wanted to like have some videos on my YouTube that like I'm kind of proud of, and not just like kind of reacting to stuff. So this will go up. I'm not really sure how it went. I'll have to look back. I was kind of having some like flashbacks of like another negative experience, but It was the first one, so I kind of expected that it would kind of be kind of shaky. But now I'll know like what to do differently next time. I just want to see what was in the Discord. No, this went amazing. Thank you guys so much. Where did they post it? Someone said they posted some memorabilia. Is it in Lena's stream talk? Oh, I see a photo. Actual Prince Charles. Is that what you mean? A ventriloquist doll. Oh my god, wait, no, that's... What's his name? Slappy? I think from Goosebumps. I saw that. You made it a convo versus a presentation. It was great. Thank you, Kate. That was kind of the idea. Don't do 9/11. It's overdone. Do the Tupac one. Good idea. Okay. Yeah, no. I wasn't considering doing the 9/11 one. The Tupac one, yes. Even Princess Diana, I was kind of like, okay, maybe that one's kind of overdone. But I thought that would be like interesting for myself personally because I didn't know much about the case. Oh, thanks, Katapi. Cup of flow. I'll be in a vow to make a weird video. It was definitely kind of shaky at first. I didn't know like how to go about it, what to start talking about first. I knew that her background was important, but I'm like, I don't know. How do I talk about her background without getting into like the crime aspect of all of it first? Like, but it ties. It's related, but I don't know. I didn't want it to be boring at first, and I didn't think it would go for 3 hours. But thank you guys. Remember to leave these recommendations, Discord stream, suggestions tab. Yes, thank you, Sad Boy. If you guys have any recommendations for like the next topic to cover, the Discord would be a good place to leave them, so I don't forget it. But thank you guys. I'm so glad to hear that you guys actually learned something from this. Okay, general chat, first pick from the bottom. What is this? Oh, she was at the wedding and got this bookmark. What? Okay, let's show this to chat. This is what was sent into the Discord. Hello. Oh, there we go. And got this little bookmark. That is so cute. The Royal Wedding, July 29th, 1981. His Royal Highness Prince Charles and Lady Diana. Yeah, so... I mean, like, this thing was just... The wedding was such a huge deal, and I feel like the fact that there was scandal behind this marriage is what caused, like, so much drama and so much tension between Diana and the public. There was also, like a coin, a royal coin or something to commemorate their wedding. Where is it? This coin. Commemorative Prince Charles of Wales and Princess Diana wedding coin. But even weirder, I also came across, I'm like, what the hell is this? There's also this one. Look how weird they look here. Is this real? I didn't have time to look into this more before showing you guys, so that's why I didn't, but whatever. I need to show you guys. Is this real? Because it's really cursed. Yeah, I don't know. But anyways, I think that is all. I'm I'm glad for the positive feedback though. Thank you guys so much. I guess this would be a good place to call it. And if you missed any of it, it'll be up on my YouTube as a VOD. Yeah, they tried. They did. If anything though, I feel like it represented like how much their marriage meant to the people. And why it was such a big deal when it crumbled. But thank you guys so much for tuning in. I was really looking forward to this one. And I'm kind of glad.
I was really looking forward to this one.
Oops.
And I'm kind of glad. I was really looking forward to this one.
Of how it turned out. Good night, everyone, and I will see you tomorrow. Let's all raid Veronica. She's raided me a few times, so I want to return the favor. Please just say hello, and I will see you guys all next time. Good night, everyone.